In light of Miss Rona, the boys at BGO Pod have adapted a virtual platform to conduct and record interviews with this season's very special opinionated people, or VSOPs for short.
We thank you for bearing with any technical difficulties in advance. This pandemic has been raggedy, but in spite of, the conversations we've had with our VSOPs have been refreshing and were well worth the technical struggle.
This episode is also brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard already, Anchor is the easiest way to start your podcast.
Big facts. 1, it's free. 2, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your track straight from your phone or computer.
3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many, many more. And 4, you can make money with no limited listenership.
It's everything you need for a podcast in one place. Carlton and I have been using Anchor for a few months now, and we're a bit obsessed.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Don't wait, honey. Your future listeners are waiting.
Now, enjoy the show.
You have reached the voicemail box of
Carlton Taylor
And Sean Brinkley.
We are unable to answer the phone right now.
So either fuck off or enjoy the show.
Ain't a period.
Yeah.
We are in this thing.
Back at it again.
God willing, we'll be back in this thing next week. Back at it again, honey. But, so how you doing, Sean?
I'm doing okay. I'm trying not to clap because I was really clapping like prior.
And look, I'm really, and there's the clap again. There's the clap again. Yeah, and I was literally just like leaning up when you told me to move back, so it's okay.
You know, it usually works itself out.
It does.
It does.
So we're in a new type of setup. Sean and I are not used to being shoulder to shoulder
Right.
while recording the damn podcast.
Right. We're usually across from each other.
across from each other.
Now we're
This
spreading.
is very intimate.
We're spreading corona.
Yeah,
between-
this is not social distancing. This is like the absolute opposite.
I mean, we're both fine, so it's okay.
Yeah, I got tested.
No.
You got tested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so how's your week?
That is always such a loaded question.
I know.
You know, I was listening to our first episode ever.
Oh.
And we talked about how we gear up for our weeks and all kind of shit. And the sigh I just did,
Mm-hmm.
that sigh has not changed.
It hasn't.
Like
That was last July, and wow.
child.
Because I had just gotten back from New York. It was my
Yeah.
first time in New York.
Yeah. I was heading to Vegas.
You were headed to Vegas, so we were
Mhm.
like swapping out
Yeah.
almost. Wow, those are both. New York was a great trip. I wanted to go to New York again, but it's crazy that you brought that up because I just got back from a little trip.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
cabin.
Yeah, but we was talking about your week. My bad.
Yeah. I mean,
It was loaded.
yeah. No, this week was. How do I describe this week? I don't know. I honestly got overwhelmed. Like I cried in therapy, for the first time this week, and I didn't even mean like. Okay, I'll come back to that. But overall, like the week was just a lot because I was officially. I mean, granted, I was back in the office the week prior, but last week was the first week of school, so we actually had people back on campus. And when I tell you, child, I don't know what's about to happen within the next coming weeks, but hopefully God just puts a protective layer over all the folks who was walking around in that student center, because
They had a mask on.
I can say about 80%.
People was walking around with no mask on.
Child. I mean, it was like that lady who was in the Smoothie King today. Her and her daughter didn't have no mask on.
But a Smoothie King is not a university student center.
Some of them did, some of them did. For the most part, everybody did. But I mean, it's when people were moving around, that's when they had their mask on. But It was the
Oh, so like when they were eating and stuff.
like when they were sitting down. But you know, when you're like in the student center, like, and you sit down, like once you finish eating, like you just chilling for a little bit, doing whatever you got to do on your computer, whatever. Masks didn't go back on then, and even like people were sitting there congregating, like they didn't have masks on. So granted, everybody's like they position the tables and stuff where it's like 6 feet apart, so like technically everybody's far apart, but child, you got ventilation, you know, you got people farting, just spreading the germs across it. It's just
That's how it works. You can spread corona through a fart.
probably it's distribution of air that is directional, you know.
But your booty hole part of your respiratory system? I thought it was respiratory.
No, it don't. But okay, so like you can have like say the wind blows, like anything that blows, like it can spread the virus.
Oh, so the wind can blow from a fart.
Yes.
So
if your fart is that powerful.
So corona just chilling out, and then the fart comes, like whoop. What is going on?
But anyways,
we're a medical podcast, by the way.
Right. WebMD, BGOMD,
BGOMD.
D is for dick. I'm done. Let me finish because we will go. Freaking. So that was that. And honestly, I think I can talk about it now. I don't even care no more. I really don't give a fuck. But they sprawled like some other shit on us at the end of the week. Literally, we're in the middle of our staff meeting. And they were talking about, oh, we need you guys to do in-person programming for students. And you know that gif with the white man who just be blinking, like, what the fuck? I'm just sitting there in the meeting like, y'all, what are we even talking about here? Like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, why are we trying to do this? But it was a push from higher leadership. I'm not gonna say which position because that's not. I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not trying to lose my job.
Yeah,
but that just took a toll on me. And then, like, I mean, you see my house right now. I'm still dealing with.
What you mean? It looks fine in what you can see on the screen.
These boxes over here, it's not cute.
Yeah, it's okay.
But
it's a work in progress. We'll say that.
Yeah, it was very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I think my therapy session just sort of put because I was just venting my frustrations. And granted, I went in there, I didn't even talk about what I wanted to talk about that week, but somehow, some way, I ended up talking about my support system and, you know, just this feeling of loneliness. And somehow, some way, I basically said, and I was telling you this earlier, like I basically said that I don't know how I even ended up surrounding myself with all of these people who like don't give me what I need to like really feel it in this world. So and I just started crying.
You know what?
4 sessions in, I done talked about like way more traumatic shit. I mean, granted, that is traumatic to some extent, you know, talking about support systems and shit.
Yeah,
but
that's a lot.
The fact that this was like my 4th session and like this is like my first time crying, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I'm crying about some shit that I didn't even think I would cry about. But whatever.
So what was good this week?
My piano came in.
And it's gorgeous. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. That was good. I mean, I ordered a lot of stuff for my my business.
Business.
You know, we love
Black
to see
business.
it. We love to see it. Really trying to get this music and dance thing up and running. Honestly, that's a lot, but I think it's a good a lot, not like the other a lot type shit. So I don't know. That was good. I mean, I always enjoy recording, you know.
Yeah, period.
Being here.
Well, Sean's house is really cute. It's coming together. Okay. We saw a spider.
Oh my goodness.
Eat another spider. or at least cocoon it
Yeah.
so they can eat it later.
Like he paralyzed it and then he started wrapping itself.
So it was like a smaller spider that looked like it was like strong, and then it was a granddaddy long leg.
Yeah.
So that got really morbid really quickly.
And then what's fucked up about the whole situation, I thought we were a medical podcast. Now we motherfucking Animals Planet.
And Animals Planet.
Look.
Animals.
Actually,
Animals Planet would probably prevent us from copyright infringement.
Right. You know.
Animals Planet.
We done spoke about too many brands on this podcast.
We're Animals Star.
Star? You can't live on no star.
You know.
You think there's people on the sun?
First off,
it's hot as hell.
We wasn't talking about the sun.
You said star though. The sun is a star.
Wrong star. We're talking about Animal Star. You can live on Animal Star.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, how are you? Anyway,
I promise you, I'm college educated. I'm okay. Last week was a lot for me too, but I just got back from vacation. Well needed. It was very interesting. It was fun though. It was cool.
Yeah, where did you go?
I went to Blairsville, Georgia, which is about 15 minutes from Helen. No, 15 miles from Helen. It was like 36 minutes from Helen.
Okay, so like North Georgia.
North Georgia, yeah. All up in the Chattahoochee.
Chattahoochee?
And I made that joke this weekend too. All up in the Chattahoochee National Forest, honey. We went and did a whole bunch of fun things. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was wearing their motherfucking mask.
You know, life is different up there. They don't care.
But girl, wear a mask anyway. We saw a few Trump Pence stores.
I just think, you know, the reason they probably didn't have the mask on, racism just adds just a extra layer of protection on a lot of things. So being up there in North Georgia, hell, that it's probably safer up there than down here.
Ain't no telling, honey. and
it's like a dome, like it's an invisible dome that just
racism does do it, because that's why Papa John's pizza is so good.
It just hit different.
Yeah, it does. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, my week was very interesting, but I actually don't remember what happened last week. I kind of suppressed it. No, that's not true. So this weekend was my roommate's birthday, and I threw him a surprise birthday party on Thursday, and it was extremely successful.
Oh, that's fun.
We have been planning it for a month, and he was surprised. Like literally, I stage everything out, and that's the publicist in me, like being able to kind of just flip and spin and to be, and kind of like, I don't want to use the word manipulate, because I think that's just a terrible way to prefer to anybody that does public relations, but like just kind of take control of the narrative, I suppose.
Yeah.
And kind of frame the agenda, for lack of a better term. And so literally, I planned this whole thing, had a friend create the guest list. I sent out an evite, you feel me? Told everybody to shut the fuck up and don't tell them, don't ruin the surprise. I'm going to get with you. And it turned out to be perfect. Like, he was completely surprised. I got a fog machine. I got some LED lights, honey. And so with the fog machine, he thought that the damn house was on fire. Like, he walked in and he almost, you could tell he was kind of panicked.
Right.
And I told everybody to basically, when he walked in, to say surprise, but there was like this weird delay, I guess, because people were like, oh my God, the time is finally here. And so I was like, surprise, and everybody finally fell in. But he was like, Carlton, he was happy because his cousin was there, and I had his cousin.
So did everybody say surprise at the same
Everybody
time?
originally, said surprise, but I started it. Like in the video, you can hear what's the word? Not unanimous. Is that the word? Unanimous?
Yeah.
Unanimous, like surprise, but I started it because people were hesitant. It was weird. It was really weird.
It's a surprise.
It was strange, but we got through it.
If he walked through the door, you're supposed to yell surprise.
Yeah, it was weird.
Why you had to start it?
It was strange.
I don't understand.
But Anyway, so he walked in and we had this cake that was made from his father. Like, he doesn't eat sweets like that unless it's from certain people or a certain type of something.
Mm-hmm.
And so his father made him a cake. We had like a video made for him. So it was like this 7-minute long video compilation of like family members that couldn't make it, because he's used to celebrating his birthday on his actual birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was coming up, regardless of what day his birthday was,
Mm-hmm.
they would celebrate, like do food, because his family is like together like that. Like they got their shit together.
Yeah.
Like optimal primetime Black family.
That's nice.
This goes because can't relate.
Right.
But God is good, and he's willing to extend. His family extends themselves to other people and to other people close to them. So I just want to offer him that same type of thing in return, because he's always extending himself. So I want to extend to him. And I mean, that's just the type of person that I tend to surround myself around, people who overextend
you were supposed
themselves.
to go hang out with his family at one point, weren't you?
Yeah, but I thought I had COVID, so I stayed my ass at home. And my mama was like, yep, if you got COVID and you go visit his family, they're not going to ever forget you and not forget things.
My goodness.
And so, but my week was great. Helen was great. Now I'm back home and about to run into some shit at work tomorrow, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Oh, God, tomorrow's going to be absolutely terrible. Yeah. But I had a great trip, so that's where I am. But anyway, we're going to do a good old squirt.
Oh.
You like my little disc jockey, my disc scratch?
That's what that was?
Sorry. Sorry. So we got some guests in the building.
Right. Like a DJ scratch, like squirt, like you didn't even do that.
I'm sorry. Blame it on the, I don't know.
Anyways,
I'm ignorant sometimes.
Go ahead and introduce the guests.
So
our guests.
God damn.
I'm just dishing them off to him like, child.
These your guests. So I have two very important people joining me today.
Very special.
For very, very special, opinionated people joining me today in the virtual green room. So we have Sean Andre Gary-Mack, and I'm only saying him first because he's first on the screen. He's my course brother. He is my course buddy. He was actually assigned to me when I joined AGMC. He's the reason why I deal with most of the motherfuckers. Because honestly, if I had to do it organically, it probably wouldn't have happened.
Jesus.
Honestly, truly. But he's legendary. He has a lot to bring to the table. And I'll let him introduce himself. And then we also have a Jeffrey Taylor. Jeffrey Taylor, no relation, outside of friends and just what else? Client relationships, and really it's just a friendship. It's a really good friendship, and I love that boy. Yes. And he has a lot to bring to the conversation today too. So we can start off with Andre, and then we can go to Jeffrey.
Hey guys, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, baby.
I'm Sean Andre Gary-Mack. I know that's a whole lot to swallow. That's why I didn't take my husband's last name, because I wasn't dropping mine and adding a hyphen to his. I am currently in Athens, Georgia at UGA Law and loving it.
Go off.
I actually was recently inspired by Carlton, my little. I think one of the things that I really love about Carlton is that he dreams big, and I talk a lot about, in relation to the chorus, I always talk a lot about the bigger picture. Yeah. And so one of the things that I was realizing, because I thought, oh, I just want to be a corporate attorney. And I was like, no, fuck that shit. Okay. I'm fat as fuck.
All right.
No, I want to be a state senator or on Congress.
Period.
Okay. Because getting the district attorney position is very difficult.
Right.
But I was inspired by Carlton. I always felt like I was destined for greater things, and I didn't want to just stop at working in the fashion industry. I always wanted to be in a place where I have a platform that I can really make a difference. Yeah. And I felt like being in Georgia, which is the capital of Black excellence, specifically in Atlanta. But going to UGA was really like, this is where I want to make my mark, and I have an opportunity to be able to take what I've learned from law school and in my life experience and implement that in Atlanta. And so thank you, Carlton, for that. And I'm a New Yorker at heart. I'm a true New Yorker. I am rough around the edges.
Very much so.
But I tell people, I said, I can give you Brooklyn or I can give you Upper West Side. Which one you want today? You can get white woman, or you can get LaQuisha. And you don't want to get LaQuisha.
Not white woman.
Yes,
White
honey.
woman.
Yes. I can very much give you Susan.
Come on.
I can give you Susan. I can even give you Estelle.
Oh,
Come on, Estelle.
And do her with a whole British accent and a Birkin bag and a red bottom
oh,
Yes, mama.
and a DVF wrap dress.
oh.
Period.
Yes. And be unbothered.
I only understood half.
And sip my wine. And sip my wine
Period.
at a good old Michelin star restaurant. Go to a good old Jean Georges for a late lunch.
Heck yeah, honey.
Or I can give you this good old McDonald's on Flatbush Ave, hair wrapped up, Mickey D's baseball cap, and come over the counter ass whooping if you want.
Okay.
Oh my
Period.
Goodness. So that's me.
Yes,
That's me in a nutshell.
love it. All right.
I feel like that's the best way to describe me.
Period. That's my boo. All right, off to Jeffrey. It's a Jason.
Oh man. My name is Jeffrey
Period.
Taylor. I'm a
Look,
junior for all the juniors out there. Right?
Both of us, yeah.
Yeah,
Child.
the juniors. Right, I love it. Me and Carlton talk about it. In addition to that, you said you was married, so I'm gonna piggyback and say I'm single just in case, we're shooting. If the opportunity presents itself. But in addition to that, I got this broadcasting degree from Georgia Southwestern State University, my hometown. So I'm always representing Americas, no matter what bigger city I get into. And I'm using my degree. Like I have a studio in my home, which I'm grateful for. I can afford to rent out a studio to do content. So why not build your own?
I feel
it. So we did the official paperwork, and I wanted to use my degree. I didn't want to just not use the degree, so I'm using it. And similar to how you said, dreaming bigger. At first, I was talking about pop culture and situations like Megan Thee Stallion getting shot all the time, and now I feel like there is a place for that for the community, but now I want something more greater. I want to talk about more things. I want to inspire young African American men more. So with the rebrand, you're going to see a lot more not messy talk. You'll probably definitely get that from me off camera, but I definitely have a different image. A lot of people see me coming back 6 months later, and it's kind of like, oh, you're not talking about sex and talking about the messy industry as much. I'm trying to inspire more people these days. I did a PR cleanup. So there's a lot of things. We're going into 30 in a few years. So definitely want to leave my impact. And I don't think that certain things are going to do it anymore. So I'm all over the place. But, I'm definitely
yes, we love business.
We love it.
Here we are.
So Jeffrey kind of hit on it, but we're basically picking up our conversation that we had with Terrell Kadeem last week with pop culture. And basically, last week we had Kadeem and Terrell come on, and they talked about their experience. Kadeem did Beachella and was one of the chosen few to be a part of that legendary historic performance. And then Terrell works in music production, video production, and has also worked with certain tech companies, the biggest being Google, correct?
Yeah.
So for you two bringing your levels of expertise, I want to start off with Andre, and then, of course, we're just going to follow the same scheme, and feel free to enter the conversation as you feel. But I know, Andre, you've worked in fashion PR, and with all the things, and we're going to always try to loop everything back to just being black and queer and existing and loving that existence. But I think for me, I am just interested in your take with just what it's like to be in that space as a black man, as a black queer man, and to be able to, like, what was that like for you? I'm gonna start with there.
So, my experience, I think, was a little bit different than any other typical black queer man breaking into the industry, because I have a mother who is very involved in the industry and very respected in the industry. And so my journey and my path was a little different because I wanted to create my own name and my own reputation. I know that working in fashion PR, I worked for some amazing and some of the biggest PR companies, and worked with some of the greatest magazines and stylists. And for me, I think I was coming up in the industry at a time where I had someone to emulate. I had Andre Leontali, who is Grandmother Gay. And he was the editor at large at Vogue. He was right under Anna Wintour. And he made a really interesting statement about a year ago, when he was releasing, there was a documentary that was made about him. And she had released a statement essentially alluding to the fact that she created him. And he said, "No, sweetie, she did not create me. She did not make me. I was born into this industry. This is what I do. This is what I eat, breathe, and sleep. And you came into this industry and you had to come from across the pond to get recognition, because nobody was trying to see it for you in good old London town." So I had him to really look up to. And I think that one of the things that I really loved about him is that he didn't take any shit. And I grew up as the same kind of person, which is partially why I really identify with my middle name being Andre, and why I prefer to go by that. So sorry, I digress. That's neither here nor there. So going to the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, which is actually predominantly Asian, not white. It is heavily Asian, heavily Hispanic, followed by white, black, and then other ethnic backgrounds. I think that I really had to make my mark. And when I knew that I wanted to go into public relations, I knew that I wanted to do it right. So for anyone who doesn't know, fashion public relations specifically is a very heavily white woman influenced industry. And you deal with very privileged white girls who think they know everything. And for me, I always keep it in the back of my mind that my father always says, you always have to be better because you're black and because you're gay. And so you always have to know, you always have to be in the know. You always have to essentially prove yourself. And so for me, I think that I did that through how I worked. I did it through my work ethic. I did it through the quality of my work. I was the only intern. I had interned for a huge company that has since broken up, but I interned for a huge company, LaForce & Stevens, that was one of the biggest fashion PR agencies on the East Coast. And I mean, I was on accounts like Reebok and Ralph Lauren timepieces and Piaget jewelry. We had Benjamin Bigsby, who was Andre 3000's brand. And I was the only person of color on my team. The only person of color. And I walked in after having interviewed and not getting the internship at first, and then them opening a position in the fashion department. I had walked in on my first day and I felt a little intimidated, and I could feel my throat sink to my stomach. And I felt a little out of place. And I remember a woman who is like another mother to me. Her name is Deborah Payton Jones. She was head of a lot of student activities at FIT, and she's the reason why I joined the gospel choir and why I was in Black Student Union and organizations like that. And she had said to me, never allow people to dictate how good you are and how valuable you are. You dictate that, and people follow your lead. And so I walked in on my first day, and we had a meeting about a shoot with Sperry Top Cider. And at the time, they had just done a partnership with J. Crew, who I ended up working for. And I walked into this meeting thinking, okay, I'm not really prepared. I don't really know much about the client. Google was not huge then, because I graduated college in 2009 with my bachelor's degree. So, and smartphones were not, I mean, I had a BlackBerry, so it wasn't like I was just hopping on my iPhone and looking up Sperry Top Cider. So I had to go in from a more creative approach. And the only thing I knew is that they had just signed to do a partnership with J. Crew. And so we're talking about all these different ways in which we can get them recognition and how we want to position them. And I said, well, what are we doing with J. Crew? How does that have an impact on how we're going to move in this area and how we're going to really promote the brand and essentially rebrand them? And they were like, well, J. Crew's doing their own thing. And I said, okay, well, why are we not taking into consideration what they're doing so that we're not doing the same thing? And I think it was in that moment that I really had the confidence to say, no, you got this.
Right.
You've interned. At one point I was like, my friends called me a professional intern, because at that point that was like my
Not a
6th or
professional
7th
intern.
internship.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, child. That was like my 6th or 7th internship in the 4-year span that I had been in college. And I had said, wait a minute, you've interned you worked at Men's Vogue as a fashion assistant. You interned at Harper's Bazaar and 17. You interned at Century 21 in the buying office. I had just come off of an internship with a boutique PR firm that had higher end clients. And I was like, I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to sit in a boardroom at 21 years old, or I'm not going to sit in a team strategy meeting at 21 years old and let somebody speak to me like I'm a child, because I most certainly am not.
Right.
And I have had enough life experience outside of the professional world to know the world around me. I have grown up, and I've grown up traveling and experiencing other cultures that I knew what I brought to the table.
Right.
And so being in that space, being Black and being gay, being gay in the fashion industry it's not a big deal.
Right.
I think they just assume that if you're a man working in fashion that you're gay. It's just the assumption. I mean, I know straight men who work in the industry who and they don't work in finance, they're in design and they're graphic designers. It tends to be graphic designers that are straight men. But I didn't have to navigate being gay sort in a way. I did have struggles with being Black and being having people pull me aside and say, so there's a level of decorum that you have to display when you're at events. I will never forget, I worked Diesel's 50th or 30th anniversary party. I worked one of their big parties, and MIA was performing, and they had all these editors there, and they had all these celebrities there. And I will never forget my boss, and I will not say her name because I'm not going to throw her under the bus. But she pulled me aside, and pulled nobody else aside, but pulled me to the side and said, there's a level of decorum that we have to display. I know this is a very big event for you. And I said, I'm going to stop you right there. This is not a big event for me. I said I was flown to Australia to work the GQ party.
So,
and that's the biggest event for them.
So to me, it just sounds like your experience was just very, I mean, that for me, it makes sense. And to kind of, because like, I know from my personal experience, and I mean, just being in PR, period, it's about the exposure. And I think what's very interesting about going to school for communications and really understand that, and it not being like this is just a major, I'm not going to go into communications. What's different about actually pursuing communications is that it takes you being in those spaces in order for you to learn. Like, you can go to school for, but public relations is not a licensed profession. And so you can graduate high school and say, I want to be a publicist, and you can do it, right? But I know for me personally, to kind of like tie into what you were saying, it's been a struggle, not necessarily being gay in that professional space, but definitely being Black, because public relations intertwines the business aspect of things. And I'm sure you can understand this, Sean, because you've worked in roles where you've kind of had to market, and you've had to be in the face,
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting in all of that is just kind of like the placement in it all.
Because that's almost crazy. Because I mean, I know I was, even doing things in music, when it came to like existing in classical spaces, or situations where like classical music, like there's this. I haven't directly had those conversations, but I definitely experienced like, I'm like, I'm playing Gucci Mane backstage,
right,
before we go on onto the the stage of the ASO or Carnegie
Walt
Hall,
Disney.
Lincoln Hall, all them different places. I'm just back there being myself, and people like, so
who this black boy with this horn? Where he from? Where y'all pick him up?
Right.
What Amtrak station?
Being the only Black French horn player.
What, this Amtrak don't go to the West Coast, do it? I don't know.
I have no clue.
What megabus? I don't know.
Child. Anyway,
Amtrak goes to the West Coast.
Oh, bloop.
But it's funny hearing that now. Somebody
damn.
Excuse us. Somebody just fell on the floor upstairs. We don't know what's going on.
Okay.
But anyways, reel it back in. It's funny hearing those type of things now, and even like reflecting on my own experiences, because just the spaces that I've worked in, not only in college, but just my professional spaces now, like being you is so encouraged.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that speaks on like how influential the Black experience is and the Black personality. Yes. I'm not even sure if there's a Black personality. I'm not sure if I'm generalizing all of us, but there's just a spark when it comes to how we facilitate a job, especially when it comes to interacting with people. So it's really, y'all, everything is happening.
What's on the floor?
A cricket.
A cricket?
It's fine.
Did you get it?
No, it flew over there. It was small.
I don't do no bugs and stuff.
Carlton, you need me to send Dylan over? You know he loves to kill a good cricket.
Dylan can come on over here. Go and ship him to Kennesaw.
Anyways, it's almost like encouraged, the creativity that, I don't know, naturally sort of comes with our personality. So it's so crazy to hear, like, sis, you can't do that.
What you mean?
You can't.
Me and Sean acting it out.
Right.
For the people that's listening.
It's so funny to hear that now, because I think I'm so, because it goes to a conversation that we actually had with our last guest who helped introduce the topic. I asked them the question, did you feel comfortable in your space? And they were like, yeah. Like, they were very much themselves. So I don't know. It's so interesting to hear it now, because I feel like the world has shifted in a sense. And we also talked about this last week too, whether, people are profiting off of,
Black culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
ain't no ifs, ands, or buts.
I don't know.
Yes.
It's interesting hearing that now, because I'm just like, in my professional space, like, I'm very much like this right now, minus the profanity. I'm very much like this in my professional space. So that's just, I don't know.
So Jeffrey, I would like to hear your take. Not not you startled.
Right.
So I would love to hear your take, because I think for me, and I don't know if you went into this in your intro, but you do wrestling. Like you're in that space.
You
At
wrestle?
Well, he covers wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Unless you're pivoting from that too. Is this disclosing a lot of information? Tell me that. Okay.
Nah, you're fine.
So wrestling
you're
and
fine.
at least when I first started studying your brand, because I was doing work for you, it was indie wrestling and indie music. And so you were attending a lot of concerts and you were going to a lot of venues and you were interviewing talent, you were interviewing different athletes. And for me, when I turned on wrestling and was playing WWE, trying to be a wannabe trade when I was growing up,
Oh my goodness.
and always chose Undertaker because he was the only person that I knew.
Oh my
Like
God.
it just seemed very whitewash or white. And so when I saw that you were in this space, I was like, okay, black boy, you better be in here and like into it. And like JSL's been in this shit. Like this man is passionate. Like going back to the bando when his head was beating his body, honey. Just talking about wrestling. So give us some insight into that.
Yeah, I was taking notes over here, but let's get into it. Because it is a whitewash industry, and I am so glad I got the opportunity to take a few months back to just reflect. Like that's all it has been. I kind of compared a little bit to when talk shows take their breaks. I be missing Wendy Williams, but I understand why she takes her break. I be missing Oprah, but I understand why the show has to look from an outside experience, and that's what I have to do. I think that when you're starting, well, for me personally, you really are in the moment in the entertainment industry. You really don't have time to stop because there's just so much content out there. So it's easily to be forgotten about.
Yeah.
So you have to continue to grow while you're working. So it was like very draining. It's a lot like, oh, the trend's going here. And then you're trying to be different. You're trying to be yourself. So it's just a lot going on. So to just be able to just stop and to create a whole new design. I remember showing you the design privately because you've been so supportive. It's like so much just went into it. But mainly was, and hopefully I don't sound bad saying this, but dealing with white people. That was the hardest part of, and what we call it, honestly, is politics. If I will tell anybody that get into the industry, I know I'm successful in this industry. So I tell anyone that if you're trying to be successful as a black man in the wrestling industry, you got to learn politics. So you got to be willing to do politics. You got to be able to maneuver around in chess. Like you have to know when to speak up for yourself, when to listen. You have to distinguish when it's a race issue and when it's like a hierarchy issue of like you just being the newest person in the room and being like, because sometimes it's like, Is it because of my race or is it because I'm the newest person in the room? Do I want to speak up and not come back to this room, or do I want to continue to elevate? So it's a lot that goes into there. But one of the things I want to hit on is sexuality for me, because surprisingly, there was a lot of people that have the same sexuality as me, that like the same sex, that told me not to disclose it publicly. And that was just so shocking to me. It was kind of like, why can't I release a pride shirt? Why can't I be seen with another guy? And especially in wrestling, because a lot of people is kind of like, you're going to be declined by the wrestlers because they're going to feel uncomfortable. And I was kind of like, you're wrestling half naked, touching another guy. But you're so we're actually going to dive into that with a documentary project that I'm working on. Actually, the homophobia is that's a whole nother future project that we're going to dive into. But at the same time, that really stood out to me because I feel like, why can't I express myself in 2016 when this first started? Like everyone was just telling me, I don't know if you guys have ever been told, but everybody was just telling me, don't tell people about what you do in the bedroom and everything. And I was kind of like, it's not so much about who I'm having sex with, but this is a part of who I am. So when the show Pose came out, I was kind of, do y'all get it now? I was kind of like, it's not that I'm trying to plaster a rainbow on you guys, but if you guys respect what I'm doing and you want to know who I'm representing and who I'm inspiring and everything, like the next person that's not only Black but also LGBTQ, it's kind of like, this is who I'm doing it for, and they're gonna see the boldness of it, and I think that I've done a great job. But at the same time, there's many rooms that I have to walk out of just because racism is heavy, and we're in the deep South. I think that because of the times that we're in now, a lot of people are thinking there wasn't racism up north or in other parts of the United States, but everyone just associated with the deep South. I know America's arrested Martin Luther King for like 2 weeks, and we get a bad rep for like but that's what we're known for as a city. So you quickly have to I feel like that's a benefit that helped me, because I was raised with it. Like I had dentists that I was raised with calling me the N-word, and I'm not proud of it, but I had educators that are teaching me, but also exhibiting racism and profiling. So by the time I got in corporate world with wrestling, I don't want to say I know how to maneuver, but I'm trying to get to a seat where I can bring others and eliminate them. And what we're doing now as Black people in wrestling, because you're probably going to see a lot more of us coming up, is we're just building our own, believe it or not. Like similar to BET, we're just about to create our own network. Like, why not? And it kind of sucks because all of the generations before, I don't know if they had this original intent and they got bought out, unfortunately, but now they're kind of trying to stop us. They're trying to stop our bag. They like say things in the media, like big Black world champions are kind of like, y'all need to work harder. We're like, what? Like, you know what we've been through. Why are you speaking against us? Like, I would prefer for you to shut up, to be honest. If you're not gonna like encourage the Black Wrestling Lives Matter movement and so much of going on. So it's just so many barriers that I'm trying to hit on to just combine everything, is that people within our own race and people within our own community just trying to keep us down and having to maneuver with that. I was kind of like, I know I have to deal with the white people, but then I look beside me and I don't know what you about to do right now. So it's just reflecting about you want to be open, but you also have to be mindful of your surroundings. Like, you want to help everybody Black. Well, I do. I'll say I want everybody Black. I want to help everybody in the community, but is it called Judas? You have Judas in your circle? What's the person that backstabs you? You have some Judas, and I've experienced that over the years. So it's just a lot dealing with professional wrestling. And the funny thing about it is, I knew for a fact that the music industry was grimy. When they said that Tony Braxton was bankrupt for a second time, I was like, something isn't right. Like, there's no way. There's no way somebody's getting this money. So once I found out the same thing was happening again. So once you start seeing that people going broke, that's like the peak, is kind of something ain't right in the water. So that's when I knew I had to like start studying and doing things differently in this industry. And I'm not trying to put everything on white people.
No, but it's the absolute truth. And I think something that's beautiful about, and I'm probably going to say this on every single fucking episode, but Black folks are just so resilient. Yeah. Because we've been given the world's ass to kiss, and we just continue to persevere and to become and to be. Because I think it's very interesting that you said that you were brought up the way that you were. Because when Sean and I had our intro episode, we were talking about what pop culture meant to us, right? Yeah. And Sean went into thinking, he brought up Greek life, and it kind of got me thinking about how pop culture really is just, I mean, it's an understood culture that people on a larger range like understand, because you know you have cultures of schools and of companies and of certain areas, right? But pop culture is something like you can turn on your television and it's influencing the media that you're taking in. It's influencing what you're listening to. It's influencing, I mean, shit, pop culture even influences like things like architecture and art and things like that. Yeah. And so Sean and I were brought up in DeKalb County where, I mean, I had Black teachers. I had people, and the white teachers were like, oh, you're Black. Good. Great job. What you want? And I mean, that was just the space that I was put in. And it also could have been my privilege being that I was a magnet student as opposed to a resident student. Right. So I can't really talk to that. but I was always put in places to where I was elevated. And then my mother and father are both college educated. And so I had that support in that space. However, it is the fact that I'm still Black trying to be in these spaces. And when I went to Georgia Southern and had that culture shock, it was more so like I'm gonna do this because I know I can, not because you're telling me that I can't, or not because I feel threatened by your existence. It was just a different understanding of surviving while Black. But to bring everything kind of full circle, also to what you were saying, Jeffrey, about how the conversation just needs to be like there needs to be conversation amongst the Black folk who are in the room.
Yeah.
Because I think it's very interesting how the older generations are trying to sabotage the younger generations, saying that y'all just need to do better, y'all just need to find your place, whatever the case is, when it should be a matter of us all advancing and not just, oh, you don't learn the good old boys game. Now you're expecting everybody else to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And so for me, and this is a question I want to pose to the both of you, what do you think needs to be done to, because I know Sean can probably speak to this more, but he's torn with the idea of there being, because I'm good for kind of like holding off and things being like, I'm fighting for my kids. But Sean is like, no, fuck that. I want to fight for my now. And I want to fight for changes now. Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, because what's funny enough, I was going to ask Jeffrey, where are you now when it comes to not speaking on your identity in those spaces? Because giving you guys context, I've always like accepted my identity and my sexuality. I've never struggled with that, but I've definitely put it on the back burner. And when I say put it on the back burner, I mean in the sense of like I never really addressed things that were problematic. So when I were in these, very heteronormative spaces, i.e. Greek life, being around straight people all the time, regardless of whatever it was, like I just somehow found my way into those spaces. And it wasn't even because like I was trying, but my personality type, I just ended up around a certain type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those groups being my fraternity brothers and sorority sisters, both D9 organizations. And as of recently, like really just these past couple of months, I'm really like, because after basically the world went to shit, pandemic happening, more Black lives being taken, and really like the country hitting a major boiling point that I feel like in my lifetime I haven't experienced. I just really became, and I won't even say hypersensitive, but I would just say aware of a lot of the problematic things that were going on, not with only Black people, but things associated with my identity. And I've realized that a lot of Black people really haven't dealt with the internal discrimination against people. And it comes out in so many different ways. Microaggressions, how they talk to you, how they refer with you, statements that they say.
Pinning you against
right
yourself, saying you got to be Black before you're gay.
Right. It's a lot of things that I feel are problematic. And if they're not dealt with right now, they're still going to manifest their way into future generations, because my identity isn't after my Blackness. They're very much intertwined, because I'm sitting here feeling pressure from, white people at my job, but I'm also feeling pressure from you because you may not even be comfortable with my identity. So those things aren't one after the other, or, they're very simultaneous. So
intersectionality.
Yeah. So I think there's like a double question. Did you pose your question?
So basically, like, my question, and we could probably find a way to merge them.
Yeah.
So it's not like, my question is like how can I phrase this? What do you think needs to happen, or where can we start as a community to better our representation or our understanding in these spaces?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I
think that
phrased that poorly.
Does that make sense to y'all?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it starts, first of all, with gay men. I think lesbians always have it very different. Their experience is always very different, and they get looked at very differently.
Yeah,
it's almost like they're not. With a lesbian, their sexuality, whether they're Black or white or Asian or Hispanic, lesbian sexuality is never called into question in relation to their race. Let me not make that blanket statement. It's almost never called into question. They're not considered. And so I think that what happens in the Black community, and I'm only speaking on this from my experience and from a recent experience I have within my own family, like my immediate family, we from such a young age are taught that boys don't cry, we don't wear pink, we can't be flouncy, and I think that we have to change that narrative because we now live in a culture and a society where we're pushing that boundary. I mean, I look at people like Karamo Brown, right? And for people who don't know who he is or who may not watch Queer Eye, he's on the revamp of Queer Eye. He was on The Real World Philadelphia. I'm dating myself and I'm giving my age away, but he was on The Real World Philadelphia. And for people who don't know who he is, he's West Indian. I want to say he's Jamaican, but that could not be right. He's West Indian, and he grew up in Texas. And he grew up as a football player and a track runner,
right?
In a space where he was told that boys can't be fragile. Let me tell you something. This hypermasculinity shit has got to end.
Yep.
Because I will never teach. Like, I don't teach my godson that he has to be tough. I teach him that he has to be strong. And those are two very different things that people like to intertwine.
Yeah.
Tough and strong are not the same. They're not the same thing. To me.
He's Jamaican.
I'm very tough.
Jamaican and Cuban. So you were right to call him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am very tough and am not afraid. And Carlton can tell you, I am not afraid to get somebody together real quick. But I'm also very strong. I've experienced way too much in my life to allow traumas to dictate how I move in this world and how I move in any space. And so I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, which is a whole other level of fuckery, and grew up with a mother who works in the fashion industry and raised me in that industry and in that space, but wanted to suppress my expression and me being who I am.
Yeah.
And the more she tried to suppress it, the more I fought with her and said, now because she's my mama, I can call her out and be like, Sharon, that's not what we're doing. No, this is who I am. If I want to wear pink shorts and flounce around school, I'm going to do that. But I also grew up in New York City. I grew up in a space where that was okay because I had people who fought before me for me to be able to live in that space. So I never had to separate my being gay and my being Black. And I refuse to be in a space where people want to dictate how I identify, because even with like my family, I can go to a family reunion in good old Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and my family will say, "Okay, you need to butch it up." I don't need to do shit. I'm grown. I'm a grown man with a briefcase, a job, and 3 college degrees, soon to be 4. You're not gonna tell me what I need to do,
Right?
Parent or not.
Period.
Parent or not. Just because you brought me into this world don't mean you could take me out. Trust.
Okay.
Trust. You didn't raise a punk.
Okay.
And I can get you together real quick. Just because your name is on a birth certificate don't mean shit.
Okay.
So I don't allow people, blood relative, not blood relative, people that I call my family, because I call Carlton my brother. Like, that's my brother. He's gonna be my brother until the day that I die. I never allow people to dictate how I identify myself, because being Black, I was born this way. I was born gay. I've known it since I was a kid. There was never any doubt in my mind. I didn't go through the confusing phase. This is who I am. And you don't get to tell me that they're two separate things because they're part of who I am. One, I just wear and you can physically see it.
Mm.
And just because I'm gay doesn't mean that I don't have to be a stereotype, right? I know when to calm down my banjee.
Mm.
And that is whether that's being gay or being Black. I know when to turn it off and when to turn it on. Because you can be straight and be banjee. You can very much be straight and be banjee. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've had to talk to colleagues and be like, I'm gonna need you to dial it down. But they're not two separate constructs for me. And I think the thing with pop culture, for me, pop culture is a I look at pop culture and I say that it's like a subject in school that you have to study.
Yeah.
Right. It's a broad topic, like history. History is a very broad topic because we could talk about US history, but if we're talking about US history, are we talking about Black history and Black culture in this country? When we talk about Western civilization, okay, are we talking about the Civil War? When we talk about European history, we're talking about the French Revolution. Are we talking about how Spain invaded all these countries and colonized in order to make themselves greater? So pop culture to me is a broad topic. And when I talk about pop culture, everything is influenced by it. I think of our government is influenced by pop culture and how we maneuver. And I think that people don't think about it in that mindset. They don't say, oh, for example, look at who, when Hillary Clinton was running for president, I don't know if you guys knew this, but when Hillary was running for president, she wanted to have Beyonce perform
Yep.
at the Democratic, I think it was the Democratic National Convention.
I know it was that or some rally that she was doing.
It was a bit, oh yes, it was a rally. And I think that where she went wrong, because let's be real, Beyonce runs the world.
Period. The pop culture world.
But she missed the mark with how she went about it. She took it from a stance of, well, now I can take Beyonce and have her perform and she will get me the millennial vote. Or she'll get me the Gen Z vote. Okay. You could have also had Lady Gaga perform. Girl, if you're going to do all that, you needed to have the right lineup.
Right.
Because just because I'm gay and just because I'm Black doesn't mean that I'm pumping Beyonce every morning, noon, and night. Right. I'm not that girl. Now I'm going to give you Shaka Khan. I'm going to give you Whitney Houston. I'm going to give you Patti LaBelle. That's how I grew up. That's what I live in. And there's nothing, and it's no shade against Beyonce, so nobody gonna do me like that.
No, I know you,
because I live for her. But she didn't go about it the right way, and I think that she didn't. And Carlton and I talk about this a lot. She didn't brand herself correctly in terms of the demographic she wanted to reach out to, and so there's when we think about our identity and how we influence pop culture. For me, I was influenced to go into law, to study law through pop culture. I was very much influenced, and I'm going to thank her on here. Thank you, Shonda Rhimes. I took a class at UC Berkeley when I was getting my master's degree in English and Comparative Lit. I took a whole year of a Shonda Rhimes course, and the course was literature, pop culture, and television. And the class that I took, we did one semester that was on How to Get Away with Murder and one semester that was on Scandal. And for me, I was so impressed and I was so honored to be living in a time where I could see powerful Black women at a time when there was a powerful Black man and powerful Black woman in our White House. And I think that people don't really look at the two. They don't look at how they
Yeah.
how they feed off of each other.
Yeah.
Because Olivia Pope was up in the White House getting shit done.
She sure was.
She was running the White House,
Oval.
and many times said, "I want the office back." Throughout the course of the show,
Sure did.
Viola Davis playing Annalise Keating. How many times do you really see a strong Black protagonist in such a powerful role?
But you know, to kind of, not to cut you off, but you know, I love me some Shondaland. And basically, Annalise Keating wasn't casted as anything other than a woman. Like, she wasn't casted as, she wasn't given a sexuality, she wasn't given a race. They were just like,
she was just her, and
she was just her.
It unpacked itself just.
I mean, the embodiment of all of it was just so raw, and for a Black woman to be like, okay, we're going to create this character, but we're not going to give her a race. We're just going to give her a character. She's going to be a person. She's going to be this person. And we want her to see this person. I think that's just brilliant. Anyway, go ahead, baby.
It is. And to your point, to piggyback off of that, I think I love how they arced the character based off of the actress who played her. Because Annalise Keating was married to a white man in good old Pennsylvania, where, and Jeffrey, to your point earlier, a lot of people misconstrue the Northeast and they look at the Northeast, and I'll speak to New York. They look at New York and they say, oh, you guys have New York City. That's the central of it. That's the capital of everything. No, it's not. Albany is. Catch. And they say, well, New York is so liberal and she's so free. No, baby. No. Because you go to good old upstate New York, and I'm not talking like Middletown. I'm not talking Westchester County. I'm talking like, you go past Albany, like Plattsburgh, Rochester, Potsdam, Oswego.
Serious. Yeah.
Girl, they are racist. They are Trump-toting, Pence voting for. They don't like Black people. I dated a guy who's from Rochester, and where he grew up, he said there was one Black family that moved into our neighborhood, and I didn't know them they didn't move into our neighborhood until I was in high school. And I was like, damn. So you didn't know any Black people until then? He was like, but he went to college in Chicago. So pivoting back to that, I think what they did with Annalise's character was great, because she was married. She was powerful. She was married to a white man who was he was a psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Yeah, he was a psychologist.
And then her character ends up having this weird bisexual relationship with women that came completely out of left field.
Yeah, it did.
Completely out of left field. And then they introduced Michaela, who's I can't think of the actress that plays Michaela right now. Her name is escaping me, but having another strong Black female in the mix, and then having the mixed race boy who was the main character, and having who a lot of people didn't catch. He was the only Black kid in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
I would just sit on his face. He is so.
He fine, but
I know.
He fine, but I don't know if I would.
I think that was, to me, that was the first time that I had seen a show with such a diverse cast, and I had seen a show that I truly felt like I really identified with the cast.
Yeah, that was a legendary cast.
Because they had the Asian guy and the white guy who dated. They had Femke Jensen, who had a relationship with Annalise Keating, and people who don't know who Femke Jensen is, she was the original Phoenix in X-Men, or the original Jean Grey who turned into the Phoenix.
She was.
It was just such a dynamic cast, and my wanting to go into politics it really stemmed from Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder, and also because I didn't get into Berkeley Law when I first applied, so I went to Berkeley for grad school, and that was how I decided I was going to make my mark and maneuver. So they're not, pop culture is law. It is the thing that is the driving force to how the world operates, because
Right.
there's so many different aspects of it.
Mm.
Greek culture for you, Sean, I think may have been a very different experience than what Greek life was for me.
Mhm.
One, because I didn't do Greek life in undergrad. I didn't go to a school that had it. So I didn't experience Greek life until I was a grad student, and it was a very different experience for me. And I went to a school that was insanely diverse. I mean, I had 30,000 students at UC Berkeley, and it was crazy diverse. I mean, my chapter president was Black
Mm.
my first year. And then my second year, my chapter president was Korean. Actually, he was Korean and Filipino.
Come on, honey.
And and prior to that, they had not had a white president. And they hadn't had a white president for like 3 years prior to my joining,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
which says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when people think about pop culture, understand that pop culture is what rules the world. But within that, there's all these subcultures that really develop and make it what it is. You know, pop culture affects climate change. It affects government. It really affects how it affects how we vote.
Right.
It really, Fashion Week is a really big platform for people in the industry and people who aren't in the industry, who are just spectators, to really say, you know what, you have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you're here to see the new Carolina Herrera collection doesn't mean that you can't go out and vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get a gift bag, and in that gift bag is gonna be a sticker that says "Go out and vote, rock the vote." You know, they're very heavily intertwined, but I think that people don't really break down the different subcategories of pop culture,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, like, I know I've said this to Sean before, but I think a lot of it is what we do, right? Like, everybody's like, you need to, like, it's all these rules, all these regulations. And I'm like, do y'all realize that we make those rules and regulations? Like, I think a lot of people are just we become so quickly, and this is what they want. We become so discouraged, like to vote. We become so discouraged to be in the boardroom and to fight to be in that space and to have a voice that's heard, because all these different things are put into place that hold us down. Mm-hmm. But they're being put in place by people who understand how the system works. And the only way to bring the system down is to do it from within.
Yeah.
And so I love how you kind of brought that full circle, Andre, but I want to hear from Jeffrey to kind of see, like, how do you think we can do a better job?
Because I know Jeffrey got the answers to the world at this point, because he been absorbing just everything. Everything.
I'm a listener.
But like, where do you feel like what is that placement for us as Black folk, as a community, as Black LGBTQ folk? What is that?
I think that everyone has a part to do that's different. So I'm specifically going to speak on mine. And mine, what I'm going to push for is tackling the youth. So you're going to see me, I've been talking about getting grants. I've been talking about doing motivation. I already do motivational speaking out to Black colleges, but I want to go even younger. I was targeted. I had African-American male institutes target me. I had young Black institutes kind of really shape me. And I don't think that I truly appreciated it until I got older. Now to be like, oh, they did it, but now they didn't. It's not that they didn't do a good job, but I know someone like me, hopefully this don't come across wrong, but I know somebody like me that's about to take it to the next level with my mind and what I want to do. I think that the youth, I believe the children are our future. I'm quoting.
Come on, Whitney.
It's one of my favorite songs. But seriously, I do believe that the older I get, I do believe that. I feel like older people are stuck in their ways. I feel like even when you go back and forth with people on Twitter, they are kind of like, why am I trying to tell you something that you're stuck in your ways? Why am I trying to change you? Opposed to when you're younger, similar to what you said, when white people are only surrounded by white people, it's kind of like, let me speak to these younger people, because that's when you're being influenced. That's when you're going to be listening. And let me, like how you said, me personally, I wasn't really introduced to the laws and the rules and so many things until older. And they always say the kids aren't going to listen to it. The kids aren't going to wear a mask. They always try and say the kids don't know this. They don't.
Yo, raggedy ass. Who won't?
The list could go on because it was done to me. The list was done on is stay out of grown folks' business. There's just so much. So that's where my place is. I do feel like adults can be influenced differently, but I would rather take the easy route and talk to people that don't know what's really going on and just fill them up with positivity. I feel like what I'm going to really tackle is affirmations. So that's going to be my portion of some of how you said Carlton had an influence on you in terms of inspiring you, but I want to inspire them. I think that so many of us just find, and I'm just speaking from my experience and my peers, we reach like a peak. Like we got here as a Black person. We got here as a Black gay male. This is good. Like you making this, you did this. And then you have someone like me that's about to challenge the kids now that like you can do whatever you want and you can do anything you want. And not only am I telling you this, but I'm about to help you do it. I'm about to give you the tools to get there because I've been there. I've broken barriers. I was one of the first Black ring of announcers and organizations in a major elite promotion. So I feel like I'm going to be in Black history, by the way.
Come on,
like pretty soon, you know? Because I was the first Black ring announcer in a lot of these major promotions because it's so whitewashed and it's a predetermined show, opposed to football and basketball and professional wrestling. It's scripted, similar to Shonda Rhimes. So you have a white man that's scripting out predetermined physical results. It's entertaining, but at the same time, you can't give us any representation like the Black dolls, like we buying Black Barbie dolls or Black dolls for kids. We can't give any representation in this league that Black people love too. So I'm definitely going to target the kids. I think that also in closing a little bit is that a lot of these jobs that I was growing up, and I speak about this, like how you said a fashion PR, and there's just so many, even lawyers. I feel like sometimes we just put basketball player, football player in the Black community. And even in the gay community, sometimes we just be like, do something fashion. So I'm pointing out stereotypes. I do want to break down stereotypes as kids because when I said I was going to do what I was doing now, everybody looked at me crazy. And nobody wanted to help me. Nobody wanted to take it seriously. And I'm not saying that goes for the world, but there's a lot of common stories. Every time I speak, I ask people that, like, how many times you want to do something? And then everybody be like, food trucking isn't going to make it that much money. Playing games isn't going to make that much money. And then gaming is like one of the major incomes right now. So if you can attack these kids, and I don't know if attack is the best word, but if you can have an influence on these kids at a young age and fill them up with politics in a positive way, with rules and regulations, and going at what they want to do and putting them in a place, setting them up early to be in the boardrooms at an early age, I feel like that's where I want to target. And you know, I do feel like there's other rams that other people can take, but I also feel like I want to specialize in what I feel like I've mastered and what I want to do. Like I want to do something I'm going to be good at. I don't like talking to older people. I feel like people are stuck in their ways. I like talking to kids. They look at me. So I'm going to make my impact there. So that's where I'm at right now. When I say what do we do to change? How do we do this? Change the narrative of the kids, because
I definitely love how you said that everybody sort of has a role. Because I think that's how I'm really sort of sitting in my identity and all of my intersections and what those things look like. I know Carlton has a role. He can exist in ways that I just it's not for me, and vice versa. I can sit in this Greek life role. I can sit in this higher ed role. I can sit in this music role and deal with the people you talk about, Jeffrey. I deal with those people. And I've always heard Carlton sort of commend me on like, Sean,
God damn it.
He was like, I have so much respect for you being in those spaces, because I have a way about being me, but I have a way about influencing the people around me, because I'm not saying that I sit and infiltrate it and ended up making people feel comfortable with having a Black bisexual male in their spaces, but literally I was chapter president and then I ended up becoming MPHC first vice, and I was pretty much in every leadership position when it came to working like in student life in college. So
And you became president after being a neo for how many months?
we're not gonna talk about that. It's not important.
Okay.
It
is, but
but I got in those spaces, one, because of, you know, my dedication to how my mom raised me. Speaking on what Andre talked about earlier, I was just raised to be this type of person. But what I actually ended up doing, and what I really push for now, since I do have that voice, I just made people comfortable with what it means to coexist with different identities and different perspectives, because I present myself very differently. Like, I'm not your stereotypical gay, in no way, shape, or form. Like, I wear my hair in pigtails, but I'm also very like quote unquote trade, or I present as straight sometimes. So it's like people be like, "What the fuck?" And they tend to get to know me and then find out things on the back end. And I think where I'm at now, like, I feel like that's because, to back up to our earlier conversation, I hope y'all are following me, because it's all gonna come back. But once I realized that things start, you are a fool. Don't leave me. Sorry. Once I really started picking up on how things were problematic, I realized that, like, with me having, I don't know, really the personality type to get in these spaces and have conversations with people, it's like, I'm gonna speak up and I'm gonna talk and be in these spaces and be like, no, what you're doing is problematic. Mm-hmm. You know, I can't sit there and accept, you know, Sean's cool. I mean, he's gay, but he's cool. Like, that's not cool. Right. I'm not about to sit there and you shame other people. And even going back to pop culture, I think I talked about this a little bit in our intro. Like, pop culture just is so fluid, and there's so many things that influence it, and there's this freedom attached to it, but there's also so many things that comes from it that just further reinforces or put these things in place that we do not have to follow. You know, and I think that's really what I'm trying to do when it comes to existing with my identity. And for Black people, you know, being gay doesn't mean you have to dress the best. You know, being gay,
or you gotta know how to dress.
You know, it doesn't mean, you know, being Black and you dance doesn't mean that, you know, you're attracted to penis. We really need to break down that was so candid.
You're attracted to penis. I mean, like, penis has a gravitational pull.
But I'm speaking how, you know, you talk to a cisgender man, this is how they talk.
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
It's like, to really put it in layman terms, I can really break it down, but like, when you
cisgender straight men,
that's how they talk, way. And it's like,
and it's based off of the media representation.
Right.
It's like a pop culture from their understanding of the pop culture that they consume.
Right.
That's what they get from.
Right.
And I'm really gayness. I'm in the space of normalizing things that should be okay. It should be okay for me to be a Black man, a straight Black man, and I want to go to school for music.
Or for dance.
Like, we have to normalize these things that are good. And I think I do that with my story. Like, somebody, I can't remember which one of you said it, but I think Jeffrey said it. A lot of people, like, didn't encourage you to go into the field that you're in, but like, you're highly successful. I had very much the same story. People told me not to go to school for music. And I was like, you can suck my left nut, got full scholarship, finished all 4 years, even though the last year was a little rough.
Not the last 4 years.
I said the last 4. Jesus, the whole thing was rough. But anyways, no, I didn't change my degree.
Right.
you know, I got through it, I paid for it, and I'm using it. And it's just, we're so attached to these things, these ideologies. And it's like, what are we even talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why? And I always say this probably in every podcast episode, we got to put things into context when we're talking about certain issues. So when it comes to these things that we're trying to reinforce, when it comes to different things associated with the Black community, all right, y'all, do y'all understand that a lot of the things that we push forward is either code switching, some form of oppression, or suppressing ourselves and how we really feel about things, you know, fitting into this box so we can, no, it's time to get out of that. And I think it's just so important for us to realize what our role in that. It's time for people to really wake up and sit in that.
Yeah, I think as a community, I think as the human race, we really need to do a better job at that. Because humanity is complex. There's so many complexities to it. But at the end of the day, there's validity in all of it.
Yeah.
And whether or not you understand it, shit, it ain't for you to understand sometimes.
Yeah.
If you don't understand why a person is trans, you don't have to understand it, but you gonna respect them.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
And their life matters. If you don't understand why somebody is gay or why somebody wanted to experiment with a pussy, but they still identify as gay, that's not your business. And this is coming from all different facets. Like, you do what you do, and that's period. You so obsessed with me because you don't got your shit together, and that's your business.
Right, and not even realizing that, you know, the whole way that you view about it is pre-programmed.
Yeah.
Predetermined.
Right.
Has been influenced by these things that you absorb every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It's funny that you say that, because I want to touch on two things really quickly.
Yeah.
So one, Jeffrey, to your point about everybody having a role, it really reminds me so much of conversations that I've had with Carlton so many times about, and I think you might know where I'm going with this.
I probably do.
So many times about a particular organization that we are both a part of.
Girl, I'm having a deja vu moment. I just want you to know that.
And Carlton, you said something really, 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 really interesting to me that stuck with me, and I marinate in it constantly. So there were a lot of positions that come up in the chorus, and Carlton was running for, which he is now holding this position. He was running for MAC committee, which I always fuck up what that committee is. What is it called?
Music advisory.
It's not music. It says music advisory committee. So, and I was running for president-elect at a time that I really had no business doing that. So, I had suggested that Carlton run for something else, and he was like, or somebody had said in our group chat that Carlton should run for something else, and he said, "That's not my ministry right now."
And you know, I said,
and I was like,
that's something I would say.
I said,
you're absolutely correct.
And it stuck with me because it reminded me of what his role is. Because I always saw Carlton, I'm like, Carlton is meant to run that chorus. He is meant to be president. He is meant to really make change in this chorus, because our chorus is 40 years old.
Yeah, it's 40.
Something like she's 40. She's coming up on 40 years old. And there are members of the chorus that have been there since her birth.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I had expressed to him, and we've had several conversations about this, is that I walked into this chorus assuming that I would see more people like me, coming from having been in San Francisco, Boston, and New York choruses.
Very diverse.
Including Boston, which is a very whitewashed city. And I had said, I came in expecting to see more people like me, and when I didn't, it was a little off-putting.
Welcome to
But to your point, Jeffrey, everybody has a role, and I think that Carlton really embodies that and plays his position very well until he's ready to elevate himself to the next position.
Well,
he knows this is the he knows this is the space that I need to exist in right now. And when I'm ready, y'all better get ready.
Oh yeah.
I think
Maybe.
Sean, to your point about intersectionality and Carlton piggybacking off of that about how is that one of my favorite quotes of all time is by Mother Rue. She says, "What other people think of me is none of my business." No one has the right, like you said, to no one has the right to disrespect how you identify, right? We have a member that is, we have a few members in the course that are non-binary, and one of the things that I've said is, it's not my job to understand why said person who may physically look female identifies as non-binary. That's not my business. They don't pay my bills. They don't put a roof over my head. They don't suck my dick at night. They don't do any of that.
Come on.
None of that. None of that. And so I may not like them for other reasons, but them being non-binary is not one of them.
I love
because it's not my business. Now, when you come up on my face with some foolery and some fuckery, that's when we got an issue, and I'm gonna have to Vaseline this face up. But it's not my place to say you shouldn't be a part of this space because you physically look different than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I have very much been in spaces where I physically look different than everybody else, being Black, and people feel like I shouldn't be in that space. I grew up going to a French private school in New York City on the Upper East Side, and people were like, "So where in Haiti are you from? Don't get it twisted, boo. Sharon was born in Saint Ouen, France, 25 minutes outside of Paris."
Right.
It is so funny that you say that, Andre. Like, because the fact that you are able, and it's probably because of how you identify, because that's typically what does it. You know, the special sauce. But a lot of Black people don't have that level of self-awareness when it comes to oppression.
Yeah.
You as a Black person have went through your whole life, you know, dealing with these things. Granted, some people haven't, but to some extent, if you live in this raggedy ass country, you done felt some shit before. But the fact that you are able to, in that moment, like, oh, I know how this feels. I know how I felt then. I'm on the other side of it. Let me not. Black people don't do that. They don't.
A lot of Black.
I think what also has happened with me in my life, and the kind of paradigm shift that I've taken mentally is, and again, I'm gonna bring up my little as an example. Carlton and I had two very different types of growing up. And not because we are quite literally like a decade and some change apart, but like we've just had two different growing ups. I didn't grow up in Georgia. I didn't grow up in a school where I was a majority. I also didn't grow up in a school in a system where I was a minority. But going to school in New York City was very interesting because I went to school with, first of all, I got to choose my high school. So I went to school with kids from Bronx, from Brooklyn, from the Upper East Side, from the Lower East Side, from the West Village to Queens, Staten Island. I had a wide array of people that I grew up with. And so for me, I genuinely did not see color as an issue, right? I didn't have to really, and I hate using this term because I hate when Black people define this for me, because I've definitely had this happen to me. I never had to really live in my Blackness, so to speak, because that was never a problem. People didn't look at me and say, "Oh, well, this is my Black friend," or that wasn't a thing for me. Where I did have to start defining my Blackness was not until I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where I wasn't Black enough. You know, I remember meeting somebody who was from New York. I was introduced through a mutual friend who I'm no longer friends with. And this guy said, "Oh, well, where did you grow up?" I said, "I grew up in Brooklyn." I said, "I grew up in Brooklyn Heights and in Bed-Stuy." So anybody who's been to Brooklyn knows that Brooklyn Heights is a fab neighborhood. She's right off the Brooklyn Bridge. And she's very white, very white. Bed-Stuy is not that. I grew up around the corner from Biggie Small's mom.
Mm-hmm.
She was hood. She was very hood.
Mm-hmm.
And so meeting this person, they said, "Oh, well, you don't strike me as somebody who grew up in Brooklyn. Like you don't act like." And I said, "Well, what does somebody from Brooklyn act like?"
Right.
Well, you're not. He was like, "You're very polished and you're very." I said, "No, don't get it twisted, boo boo." Because you're gonna say something and you're gonna have me really. I said, "You gonna say something and I'm gonna really show you what that 718 is about." So I would tread very lightly with me.
I can show you East
Because
Side Atlanta if you want it. If you really,
because if you want Bed-Stuy, I can give you her.
Mm-hmm.
I can.
But we're gonna stay on good old Clark Street. We're gonna stay on Clark Street. We're not going to Flatbush. We're not going to Halsey and Troop Ave because you're not ready for her.
Right.
And so I didn't really have to live in a space of defining my Blackness until I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And one of the things that I really found, and I kind of found this through the chorus, is that I think that I have a big personality, and I've learned through my little that I don't have to change my personality. I just have to know when she's appropriate and when she's not. Because Carlton is really good at speaking up, and he's really good at knowing when to pick and choose his battles.
Mm.
And I think that what happens in society today is that we're always taught we have to be the bigger person.
Right.
We're always taught that we have to suck it up. We're always taught that we have to grin and bear it. And for me, I'm like, I don't have to grin and bear shit. If your name is not Sharon or Steven,
period,
or Ramona, if your name is not John Nay, who I share a home with, if I don't share a bed with you, if you don't provide for me, I don't have to do anything to accommodate you.
right?
Because who are you?
Period.
Why do I need to accommodate you when for centuries we have not been accommodated? Yeah. But y'all want to steal our culture.
Right.
You want to appropriate you want to appropriate our hairstyles.
You want to market.
And I'm not Solange Boo. You can't have a seat at the table.
Okay. But you sure can't touch my hair either. Shit.
You can't, and you most certainly can't. She's looking a hot mess right now, but no, you can't touch my hair. I'm not that girl, and I'll pull out Bed-Stuy real quick and get you together. And so you right on your ass on the A train up to the Upper West Side.
Period.
Yeah.
It's a pop culture is kind of a double-edged sword. It's great because it influences so much of how the world works, right?
Yeah.
But in other ways, I think there are a lot of times, and I've seen this in the fashion industry, where I've had to speak out and say, no, do not put that blonde hair white girl from Nebraska in cornrows and have her walk down the aisle. Like, she can't walk the runway looking like that. Her hair is too thin, so it won't stick. And then you're gonna have to put all this product in it, and it's not gonna look right. She can't walk in heels, and you're creating this look or this appeal from a collection that you've designed around Black culture, and you have these very size 0 and size 2 models that don't fit the profile.
Exactly.
You just can't do that.
Yeah.
There was a Russian designer that showed at Fashion Week and the head of PR is a Black man, and I had a conversation with him because I was the event producer. Mm. And I said, I get that you're Eastern European, and Eastern European women are built similarly to Black women. Mm-hmm. They are busty, they've got body, they are voluptuous. Like, look at Maria Sharapova.
Yeah.
Right? Tennis player she's not built like Serena or Venus, but for her being white, she's as close to that as you will get. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and here it is. It's insulting that you have these girls coming down in cornrows, and you put bundles and bundles and bundles of virgin Brazilian and Malaysian hair in their head for them to look a part that they can never identify with.
Right.
Like, stop having Kendall Jenner walk down the runway trying to emulate a Black girl. Her mother is from San Diego and she's Italian.
Right.
And her father is, their father was Albanian.
I
Albanian.
don't know where
Their father was Albanian. And these girls swear
the Kardashians.
the people live by the Kardashians because they swear that they are the end all be all. And I'm like, just because you suck the black dick doesn't mean that you stand for black rights. Kim, get your man in chat because Kanye West is off his rocker.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, something that I really appreciate about all y'all is that regardless, read the fuck regardless, you are authentic in being that, and honestly, being you is enough. And I think our representation as Black queer men, as Black same gender loving, gay, same sex loving, whatever you want to identify
Whatever you want to
as.
fuck the day and time, whatever.
Like just Black men as people, we contribute so much to our communities. We contribute so much to pop culture just simply existing.
Yeah.
So I want to go ahead and start closing the show out. But Sean and I typically like to end on a very positive note. And so that being said, Andre or Jeffrey, do y'all have anything that you want to leave the people with? And then we'll go about wrapping this baby up.
Jeffrey, I'll let you go first.
It's on me first. I'm put on the spot. I just want to wrap up everything that we said. I feel like there's definitely a roles. I feel like there's leaders. I feel like everyone is a leader. Just have to find where you place in that leadership role. I feel like everyone can lead. So just continue to inspire people to be themselves, and that goes for the cis people as well. Like I feel like they feel like it's a civil war, and white people too. Like it's not a civil war. A lot of my white people is kind of like. It's kind of like it's us against y'all. Are we still cool? I got some text messages. Are we still cool? I was like, yeah, we still. It's not a civil war, you guys. It's
No, we still after seeing some news. We still cool. Did you do it? Like, shit.
Yeah, you definitely have to. I feel like you definitely have to put that in sometimes when you have conversations like this. Like, we're not bashing.
No, we really all fighting for the same shit. Yeah.
Anything for you, Andre?
I live by this quote. I live by this one particular quote in this speech. Martin Luther King gave a speech about a dream, and Willy Wonka said, "We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams."
Period.
So go out, and if you dream it, if you wish it, you can do it. I know that sounds super corny and cliche, but you can do it.
But I think
you can do it.
I said this the other week. I feel like if shit is corny and cliche, it's because it's true. Like, don't look at it as corny or cliche. Do it. God damn it. Like
Willy Wonka, though he is a fictional character, said, "We are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams." And look at what he created. Yes, I know he's fictional, but look at what he created.
That writer's room sat down and they had a goal in mind. I sure did.
So go out and do it, but do it and know your position and play your position, and then elevate yourself.
Period. Okay.
Period.
So how you feeling, Sean?
I'm actually feeling pretty good after this one.
You feeling lightened?
Are you feeling blessed and highly favored?
Yeah, because these last ones, I don't know what it was. I don't know if somebody farted and walked by me before we started wrapping up. But I feel I'm not, because I usually have this very like feeling at the end of these past couple of episodes, but I don't know. Today was really, I don't know, it was good. Like, granted, all of them have been good, but I think
today just had a little hot sauce. That's all.
Yeah, like it just.
Yeah, it was a little.
Hello. I don't know. I feel better than I did.
Good.
I
always check in with my baby.
Child, I be.
I know. This has been, we're really having a conversation, and to wrap things up quickly to your point earlier, Jeffrey, and I feel like I kind of dropped it when I was talking about it, but you were making that notice about how older Black wrestlers are making it difficult for the newer generation coming in. It really is a matter of us sitting down and having the conversations too.
Right.
We can't just sit back and expect white people to fix all their problems, like, because in so many ways we have to work through the trauma and the wounds and the keloids that have developed from the trauma that we've experienced.
Yeah.
And like, though you're not responsible for your trauma, you're responsible for how you deal with it. And being shitty doesn't, you can't say, oh, I'm traumatized, so I'm gonna be shitty to a person.
Right.
Like, no, because my daddy ain't shit. But I ain't gonna turn around and be an ain't shit daddy. I mean, daddy to my kids.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Like, that was I'm sorry. We are just so abrasive, but whatever, you get it. Raw, honey. Raw down this podcast.
Yeah.
But that was a lot too. Oh my God.
That was loaded.
But anyway, I really want to thank you two for joining us today on this extremely rambunctious platform. And yeah, it's been dope.
Yeah. Do you guys want to shout out like your personal brands or anything that you have going on? Just so you know, we support Black businesses, Black aspirations, dreams, all that other shit. So anything you want to give to people that they can, you know, get a little some.
Do a little Google. A little Google.
I have something that I'm working on with my amazing content strategist, brand manager. Lord knows I do not have the bandwidth right now to be thinking about all of this.
Strategy?
Yeah. You need it. What you think the Instagram is? We just broke. Things can't go above and beyond yet.
I didn't connect the dots. That was no. Continue.
So I have a travel and lifestyle brand that I'm in the process of creating called Bags and Bourbon.
Hey man.
It's all of the things that I love, bourbon, because I love a good drink.
Come on.
And travel, because those who don't travel read only one page.
Ish.
So yeah, I'm hoping that launches by the end of the year. We've got some great collaborations, and Carlton and I will be talking in the future about, very soon, hopefully next week actually, about the first video that I have to put up on YouTube and what the YouTube channel is going to look like and all of that. So be on the lookout for Bags and Bourbon.
And you're in a JD program, right?
I am in a JD program, not an MLL.
Okay,
I'm in a JD.
Right.
I will be a doctor, a Juris Doctorate.
Yes, sure will.
Of law, and then I will be taking the bar, hopefully, like right after I graduate.
Yes, excellent. At the first chartered university in the U.S. I believe that's what you is. The first chartered public university. Yeah. Beautiful. JSL was good. Was T.
Oh yeah. You all can follow me on all social media platforms, JSL. And yeah, and we also have JSL too, which is for everybody. JSL is for professional wrestling. So if you're a wrestler lover like myself, that's going to be JSL. And then the ideal of when I created JSL 2 was like MTV2. Like I was kind of like, how can we distinguish the two? So JSL 2 is for everything else. So yeah, but JSL is soon. Give me 1 year and that'll be the directory for everything. Like you could just be able to type in JSL on Google and everything is gonna go there. I just gotta buy out a few. I gotta buy out a few domains. Like when I finally had this idea, somebody was already bought it. So now I gotta do the politics.
And it's people who do like IT folks, they buy out domains just for the hell of it. So like it's I mean, get how you live, honey.
We can talk about politics all day because I was just talking to Carlton how I'm gonna have to get somebody right, child.
Oh, is all right.
Get them right.
Well, we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah.
All right, babies. We'll see y'all later. Adios.
Adios.